The space station called Harmony's Reach floated in the darkness between stars. It was a beautiful thing made of white metal and glass. Lights from 1,000 windows made it look like a jewel hanging in space. For 50 years, this station had been a place of peace. Diplomats from 14 different alien species came here to talk, to trade, and to solve problems without war. On this day, the station was busy. A trade summit had brought important people from across the galaxy. There were the tall, blue-skinned Lorathi, with their gentle voices. There were the insect-like Velmar who clicked when they spoke. There were the stone-faced Corinth, and the small, furry Delani. And there were humans too, 43 of them, including Ambassador Elena Vasquez and her 12-year-old daughter Sophia. Elena stood by a large window, watching ships come and go. Sophia was beside her, playing a game on her tablet. The summit was going well. In a few hours, they would sign new trade agreements. Then they could go home to Earth. "Mom, can we get food?" Sophia asked. "I'm hungry." Elena smiled. "Soon, baby. Let me finish one more meeting." She never got to that meeting. The first explosion came from the docking bay. The station shook hard. People screamed. Alarms began to ring. Elena grabbed Sophia and pulled her close. Through the window, she saw ships she did not recognize. They were dark and ugly, with weapons pointing at the station. "What's happening?" Sophia cried. Before Elena could answer, the doors burst open. Soldiers rushed in. They were Vethkai, a reptilian species with green scales and yellow eyes. But these were not regular Vethkai. They wore black armor with a red symbol on their chests. Elena knew that symbol. Everyone in the galaxy knew it. The Vethkai, separatists, terrorists. "Nobody move," the lead soldier shouted. His voice was cold and sharp. "You are now prisoners of the Free Vethkai movement. Obey us, and some of you might live." The next hour was chaos. The terrorists gathered all 847 people in the station's main hall. They pushed them with weapons. They shouted orders. Anyone who moved too slowly was hit. An old Delani diplomat fell, and a soldier kicked him until he got up. Sophia was crying quietly. Elena held her tight and whispered, "Be brave. Be quiet. Help will come." But Elena was not sure help would come. The terrorists had planned this well. They had disabled the station's communications. They had destroyed the emergency beacons. The station was cut off from the rest of the galaxy. The leader of the terrorists walked to the center of the hall. He was bigger than the others, with dark green scales and a scar across his face. His name was Kethvor, and he was wanted for crimes on 12 different worlds. "Listen carefully," Kethvor said. His voice echoed in the hall. "I will explain your situation one time. We have taken this station. We have taken you. The Galactic Concord will pay for your release. If they do not pay, you will die. It is simple." He pulled out a datapad and read their demands. They wanted 200 prisoners released. They wanted 50 billion galactic credits. They wanted 3 star systems given to them as their own territory. These were impossible demands. Everyone knew it. "To show we are serious," Kethvor continued, "we will give a demonstration." 2 soldiers dragged forward a Lorathi diplomat. His name was Ambassador Thelvin. He was old and kind. Elena had spoken with him just that morning about his grandchildren. "Please," Thelvin said. "I have done nothing to you." "Exactly," Kethvor said. "You are innocent. That is the point." He raised his weapon and fired. Thelvin fell. He did not get up. Sophia screamed. Elena covered her daughter's eyes. But it was too late. She had seen. "1 hostage will die every hour until our demands are met," Kethvor announced. "We have 800 more. The Concord has time, but not much." The terrorists had brought their own communication equipment. They broadcast their demands across the entire galaxy. Billions of beings on thousands of worlds watched in horror. They saw the dead Lorathi on the floor. They saw the crying hostages. They saw Kethvor smile. Elena's mind raced. She was a diplomat. She had been trained to solve problems with words, but there were no words for this. These terrorists did not want to talk. They wanted to hurt and scare. She had seen their type before in human history. They could not be reasoned with. She looked around the hall. The human hostages were scattered among the others. She saw Dr. James Wright, a scientist from the Mars colony. She saw Captain Yuki Tanaka, a transport pilot. She saw young Michael Chen, only 19 years old. On his first diplomatic mission, they all looked scared. But they also looked angry. That was the difference, Elena realized. The other species looked only scared. They were waiting to be saved or waiting to die. The humans looked like they wanted to fight. An hour passed. The terrorists killed another Lorathi diplomat. This time, it was a young female named Selria. She had been a poet. Elena felt sick, but she also felt something else growing inside her. It was cold and hard like iron. These murderers would pay. She did not know how, but they would pay. She managed to find a small communication device hidden in her jacket. The terrorists had searched everyone, but they had missed this one. It was old technology, something her grandfather had given her. It could send only one message. She typed quickly, hiding the device with her body. They killed the Lorathi ambassador in front of Sophia. They're not bluffing. She sent it to Earth, to United Earth Command, to the only people she trusted to do what was right. 12 light-years away, Admiral Marcus Chen sat in his office on Earth. He was an old soldier with gray hair and tired eyes. He had seen many terrible things in his 60 years of life, but when he read Elena's message, his face went pale. He read it again. Then he stood up slowly. His hands were shaking, but not from fear, from anger. "Get me the president," he said to his assistant. "Now, sir, it's the middle of the night. The president is, I don't care if she's sleeping on the moon. Get her. Tell her it's about Harmony's Reach. Tell her they're killing hostages. Tell her." He paused and took a deep breath. "Tell her they have children." 20 minutes later, President Amara Okonkwo was in her situation room. Screens showed the terrorist broadcast. She watched Kethvor laugh. She watched hostages cry. She saw a young human girl with brown hair holding onto her mother. "That's Ambassador Vasquez's daughter," an aide said quietly. The president nodded. Her face showed nothing, but her eyes were hard like diamonds. "What are the Concord's options?" she asked. "Standard protocol, ma'am. Negotiation. Ransom payment. It's how these things are always handled." "Always?" "Yes, ma'am. Every species in the Concord has paid ransoms before. It's considered the practical solution. You pay money, you get hostages back, nobody else dies." President Okonkwo was quiet for a long moment. She watched the screen. She watched Kethvor walk among the hostages like he owned them, like their lives meant nothing. "No," she said finally. Everyone in the room looked at her. "Ma'am?" I said no. "We will not pay. We will not negotiate. We will not give these murderers a single credit." "But ma'am, the hostages." "I know." Her voice was soft but firm. "Contact Admiral Chen. Tell him to activate Nemesis protocol. And get me a channel to the Galactic Concord. I have a message for them, and for everyone watching." She looked at the screen one more time. At the little girl crying. At the mother trying to protect her. "Humanity does not negotiate with murderers," she said. It's time the galaxy learned what that means. The Galactic Concord's capital station was the largest structure ever built. It floated in neutral space, far from any planet or star. 10,000 diplomats worked there. They made laws. They solved problems. They kept peace among 100 different species. Today, the Great Hall was in chaos. High Arbiter Velnosh stood at the center podium. He was ancient, even by his species' standards. His insect-like body was covered with ceremonial robes of gold and silver. For 300 years, he had guided the Concord through crisis after crisis. He had seen wars end. He had seen empires fall. He had seen terrible things become normal. "Order," he clicked. His voice echoed through the hall. "We must have order." The alien diplomats slowly quieted down, but the fear in the room was thick like fog. Everyone had seen the broadcast from Harmony's Reach. Everyone knew what was happening. "We have received demands from the Vethkai Separatists," Velnosh said. "The negotiation collective has begun their work. We expect to reach an agreement within 48 hours. A Lorathi diplomat stood up. His blue face was wet with tears. "They killed our ambassador. They killed Thelvin and Selria. You want us to pay these monsters? I understand your pain," Velnosh said calmly. "But we must think of the living. 845 hostages still need our help. If we pay, most of them will survive. If we do not pay..." He did not finish the sentence. The Lorathi sat down. He looked broken. This was how the galaxy worked. Everyone knew it. Terrorists took hostages. Governments paid ransoms. The hostages went home. The terrorists got rich. And then it happened again, and again, and again. It had been this way for 10,000 years. We must contact all member species, Velnosh continued. Each government will contribute to the ransom according to their economic status. Humans have 43 hostages, so Earth will pay. Earth will pay nothing. Every head in the hall turned. The human ambassador to the Concord stood at his seat. His name was Robert Shaw. He was a tall man with dark skin and gray hair. His voice was calm but carried across the entire hall. I have just received word from President Okonkwo. Shaw continued. The United Earth government refuses to negotiate. We will not pay ransom. We will not meet any demands. Silence. Complete silence. Then the hall exploded with noise. Aliens shouted in a dozen languages. Some were angry. Some were confused. Some were scared. This is madness, a Corinth diplomat yelled. Your people will die. They might, Shaw replied. But we will not reward murder. High Arbiter Velnosh raised his arms for quiet. His old body was trembling slightly. In 300 years, he had never seen anything like this. Ambassador Shaw, he said carefully, perhaps there is a misunderstanding. The negotiation collective has handled hundreds of these situations. We have refined the process over millennia. Payment ensures survival. This is simply how civilized species handle such matters. Then perhaps, Shaw said, we are not civilized by your standards. He pressed a button on his desk. A holographic screen appeared in the center of the hall. President Okonkwo's face filled the screen. She looked directly at the camera, directly at every diplomat in the room, directly at everyone watching across the galaxy. To the Galactic Concord and all who are listening, she began. I am President Amara Okonkwo of the United Earth Government. Today, terrorists have taken innocent people hostage. They have murdered 2 Larathi diplomats. They demand we pay them for their crimes. They expect us to reward them for killing. She paused. Her dark eyes were steady. We will not. The United Earth Government does not negotiate with murderers. We do not pay ransoms. We do not give rewards for taking innocent lives. This has been our policy for over 300 years. It will not change today. The hall was silent. Every alien watched with wide eyes. I have heard that paying ransoms is how the galaxy works. I have heard that it is practical. I have heard that it saves lives. Okonkwo's voice hardened. But what kind of lives are saved when we teach the universe that murder is profitable? What kind of galaxy have you built when terrorists grow rich and victims are forgotten? She leaned closer to the camera. Every time you pay, you tell the next terrorist that crime works. Every ransom funds the next attack. Every negotiation teaches the lesson that innocent lives are for sale. You have made a galaxy where evil is rewarded, where murderers become wealthy, where the innocent are merely inventory. Velnosh's wings buzzed nervously. This human was challenging 10,000 years of tradition, 10,000 years of careful balance. She did not understand. She could not understand. Her species was too young. Humanity chooses a different path, Okonkwo continued. We will not pay. But we will not abandon our people either. To the terrorists who are certainly watching this, you have made a terrible mistake. You think our refusal to pay means our people are unprotected. You think we will simply watch them die. You are wrong. She smiled. It was not a warm smile. We will come for them. We will find them. And we will teach the galaxy a lesson it will never forget. Humanity does not negotiate with murderers. Humanity punishes them. The screen went dark. The hall erupted again. Diplomats shouted at Shaw. They called humanity foolish, proud, suicidal. They said Earth would regret this. They said the blood of every human hostage would be on Okonkwo's hands. Shaw stood quietly through it all. He did not argue. He did not explain. He simply waited until the noise died down. You may continue your negotiations, he said finally. Pay for your own citizens if you wish. But Earth will handle this our way. On the terrorist station, Keth Vor watched the broadcast with interest. He had expected anger from the Concord. He had expected fear. He had not expected this. The humans refused to pay, his lieutenant said. What do we do? Keth Vor laughed. It was a cold, ugly sound. We do exactly what we promised. If they will not pay for human lives, then human lives are worthless. Find the human child. The ambassador's daughter. We execute her next. On camera. Let the galaxy see what human pride costs. He smiled, showing his sharp teeth. The mother will beg. They always beg at the end. And when she does, we broadcast it everywhere. Let Earth see their ambassador on her knees, crying for her child's life. Then we will see how long their policy lasts. Far away, in the dark space between stars, ships moved. They were human ships, but they did not look like anything the galaxy had seen before. They were small and fast, painted black so dark they seemed to eat the light around them. They made no radio signals. They showed on no sensors. They were ghosts. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the ghost ships on his screen. Only he and a handful of others knew they existed. The Nemesis protocol had been secret for 40 years, built in hidden shipyards, crewed by volunteers who did not officially exist, ready for a day that everyone hoped would never come. That day had come. "Sir," his communications officer said, "the President has made her statement. The Concord is not happy. I imagine they aren't." Chen replied, "Sir, what if? What if we can't reach them in time? The terrorists are killing a hostage every hour. Our ships are still 6 hours away." Chen turned to look at the young officer. She was scared. That was okay. Everyone was scared. "Lieutenant," he said quietly, "those ships aren't 6 hours away." They were already in position before the President made her speech. The lieutenant's eyes went wide. "We've been ready since the moment we got the ambassador's message. We know exactly where our people are. We know exactly how many terrorists there are. We know their positions, their weapons, their shift changes." Chen turned back to the screen. "The galaxy thinks we're young and foolish. They think we don't understand how things work. They're wrong." He pressed a button on his console. On the screen, the ghost ships moved closer to Harmony's reach. They were invisible, silent, waiting. "We understand perfectly," Chen said. "We just refuse to accept it. Nemesis teams, you are authorized. Godspeed." The ships vanished from even his screen. They were too close to the station now. Any signal might give them away. Chen sat down in his chair and watched the terrorist broadcast. Kethvor was laughing. Hostages were crying. Somewhere on that station, a 12-year-old girl was waiting to die. "Not today," Chen thought. "Not on my watch." He looked at the clock. 5 hours, 37 minutes until the teams were in position. 5 more hostages might die before then. It was an acceptable loss by Concord standards. But there were no acceptable losses by human standards. Not one. "Come on," he whispered to the screen. To the ghost ships. To his people who were risking everything. "Bring them home." 6 hours had passed since the terrorists took Harmony's reach. 6 hostages were dead. 4 Lorathi, 1 Delaney, and 1 Corinth. The bodies still lay where they fell. Kethvor wanted the other hostages to see them. He wanted them to understand that death was real and close. The main hall smelled of fear. 841 hostages sat on the cold floor, huddled together in groups. Some cried. Some prayed to gods from 100 different worlds. Some stared at nothing, their minds broken by what they had seen. Ambassador Elena Vasquez held her daughter Sofia close. The girl had stopped crying hours ago. Now she just trembled, her face buried in her mother's shoulder. "Mom," Sofia whispered. "Are we going to die?" Elena stroked her daughter's hair. She wanted to lie. She wanted to say everything would be fine. But Sofia was smart. She would know it was a lie. "I don't know, baby," Elena said honestly. "But I know something else. Help is coming. Our people are coming." "How do you know?" "Because that's what we do. Humans don't leave each other behind. Never." Across the hall, Elena could see the other human hostages. They were scattered among the aliens, but they had been communicating with looks and small gestures. Captain Yuki Tanaka had served in the military before becoming a pilot. She had been quietly positioning the humans near the exits. Dr. James Wright had been watching the terrorists, learning their patrol patterns. Young Michael Chen had been comforting the alien hostages, keeping them calm. They were waiting. They didn't know what they were waiting for, but they were waiting. Ready. Kethvor walked through the hall, enjoying the fear. He stopped in front of Elena and looked down at Sofia. "The human child," he said. "Your government still refuses to pay. Do you know what that means?" Elena felt her heart turn to ice. "Please, she's just a child." "I know." Kethvor smiled. "That's why she will make such a good message. Your president thinks she can challenge us? She thinks human pride matters? I will show her what pride costs. He grabbed Sophia's arm and pulled. The girl screamed. Elena jumped up to stop him, but two soldiers pushed her back down. No, take me instead. Oh, I will, Kethvor said. After. But first, the child. I want your president to watch. I want her to see what her words have done. He dragged Sophia toward the center of the hall. His soldiers pushed Elena to follow. She stumbled forward, her heart pounding, her mind racing for something, anything she could do. The terrorist broadcast equipment was set up in the center of the hall. Cameras pointed at a small raised platform. This was where they killed the hostages. This was where the galaxy watched. Kethvor pushed Sophia onto the platform. The cameras turned on. Red lights blinked. People of the galaxy, Kethvor announced. The humans think they are special. They think their pride is more important than their children's lives. Let me show you what human pride looks like. On 1,000 worlds, billions of beings watched. They saw a little girl crying on a platform. They saw her mother screaming, held back by soldiers. They saw Kethvor raise his weapon. But on Earth, in a secret room deep underground, Admiral Chen watched something else. He watched 16 green lights on his screen. 16 teams, 16 entry points, all in position. All teams ready, sir, his officer reported. Chen looked at the clock. They had cut it close. Too close. Execute, he said. On the station, Kethvor was enjoying the moment. The mother was begging now. Tears ran down her face. The child was crying for her mom. This was perfect. This would break Earth's spirit. This would show the galaxy that human pride was nothing but empty words. He aimed his weapon at Sophia's head. Any last words, little human? Sophia looked up at him. Her face was wet with tears, but something changed in her eyes. Fear was still there, but something else too. Something strange. My mom told me a story, she said quietly, about what happens to people who hurt human children. Kethvor laughed. And what happens? We find them. The lights went out, not just the lights in the hall. Every light on the entire station. Every screen. Every camera. Every system. In one instant, Harmony's reach went completely dark. Kethvor froze. This was impossible. The station had 3 backup power systems, 4 emergency generators. Nothing could shut down everything at once. What's happening? He shouted. Get the lights back. His soldiers scrambled in the darkness. They couldn't see anything. Their equipment was dead. Even their weapons targeting systems were offline. Then the sound started. Soft sounds. Almost too quiet to hear. Footsteps? No. Something else. Movement in the air. Whispers of wind where there should be no wind. A soldier screamed. Then another. Then silence. Report! Kethvor yelled. What's happening? No answer. More sounds. Something heavy falling. A grunt of pain cut short. In the darkness, Elena pulled Sophia into her arms and dropped to the floor. She covered her daughter's ears and pressed her own eyes shut. She didn't know what was happening, but she knew it was violent. The human hostages around the hall did the same. They knew somehow. They felt it. Help had come. 7 minutes. That's how long the darkness lasted. 7 minutes of sounds that no one could see. 7 minutes of screams and silence. 7 minutes that felt like 7 hours. Then the lights came back. Elena opened her eyes. The hall looked different now. The terrorists were gone. No, not gone. They were there, but they were on the floor. All of them. Not moving. Not breathing. 186 armed soldiers. Taken down in perfect silence. Standing among the bodies were figures in black armor. They were humans, but they didn't look like any soldiers Elena had ever seen. Their armor was matte black, absorbing light like shadows. Their faces were hidden behind dark visors. They moved with perfect silence, checking the fallen terrorists, securing their weapons. One of them walked toward the platform where Kethvor lay. The terrorist leader was still alive, but barely. Blood ran from his mouth. His yellow eyes were wide with terror. How? He whispered. How did you? We had sensors. We had guards. The black-armored soldier looked down at him. When he spoke, his voice was calm and cold through his helmet. You had sensors that look for ships. We didn't bring ships. We brought ourselves. But the distance, you couldn't have. We were already here. We've been here since before you started killing. waiting, watching, learning every position, every patrol, every weakness. The soldier leaned closer. You thought you were in control. You never were. We let you think you were. We needed time to position our teams. Kethvor's eyes went even wider. You let us kill. 5 more hostages died while we prepared. 5 deaths that will haunt me forever. But 841 are alive because we waited, because we did this right. The soldier's voice hardened. You should have listened to the president. Humanity doesn't negotiate with murderers. We just wait until we can kill them all. The soldier stood and walked toward the broadcast equipment. The cameras were working again now. The whole galaxy was watching. To everyone watching this broadcast, the soldier announced. His visor reflected the lights, showing nothing of his face. The hostages are safe. All 841 survivors are unharmed. Every terrorist on this station has been neutralized. He paused, letting the words sink in. Humanity does not negotiate with murderers. We find them. We end them. This is not a threat. This is a promise. To anyone in this galaxy who thinks about harming innocent people, especially children, remember this day. Remember what happened here. Remember that wherever you go, whatever you do, we will come for you. He walked toward Elena and Sophia. The ambassador was crying, not from fear anymore, but from relief. She held Sophia so tight she worried she might hurt her. The soldier knelt beside them. His voice softened. Ambassador Vasquez, Sophia, you're safe now. We have medical teams incoming. Ships are en route to take everyone home. Thank you, Elena whispered. Thank you. Don't thank me, ma'am. Thank the people who trained us. Thank the president who sent us. Thank the whole human race that decided a long time ago that some things are not negotiable. He stood. The galaxy forgot that principle. We never did. Across the hall, the alien hostages stared in shock. They had been ready to die. They had accepted it. That was what hostages did. They waited for their governments to pay, and if the payment came too late, they died. But the humans had done something different. Something impossible. They had cut through a station's walls like paper. They had moved through darkness like ghosts. They had killed 186 armed soldiers without hurting a single hostage, and they had done it in 7 minutes. A Lorathi diplomat, one of the survivors, approached a human soldier. Her blue hands were shaking. How? She asked. How did you do this? We've never seen. No species has ever. The soldier tilted his helmeted head. We're human, he said simply. This is what we do for our people, for any innocent people. The galaxy taught you to accept losses. We were taught something different. What were you taught? The soldier looked around at the rescued hostages, at the children crying with relief, at the families holding each other, that every life matters, that evil must be punished, that some lines should never be crossed. He turned back to the Lorathi. Your diplomats were killed today. I'm sorry we couldn't save them. But know this. The people who killed them will never hurt anyone again. Their organization will be hunted across every star. There is no place in this galaxy where they can hide. He walked away to join his team. The Lorathi stood alone, watching him go. Everything she thought she knew about the galaxy had just changed. The young species, the ones everyone called naive and foolish, had just done what no one else would do. They had refused to accept evil. And they had won. The galaxy had not slept. On every world, on every station, on every ship, people had watched. They had seen the terrorists broadcast their murders. They had seen humanity refuse to pay. They had seen the lights go out and come back on. And they had seen the impossible become real. In the great hall of the Galactic Concord, High Arbiter Velnosh sat in his chair, too shocked to move. The screens around him showed the aftermath on Harmony's Reach. Medical ships were arriving. Hostages were being treated. Human soldiers in black armor moved through the station like shadows, still checking every corner. This is unprecedented, a Corinth diplomat said. How did they do this? More importantly, another voice called out. Why did they not tell us? The hall buzzed with angry voices. For thousands of years, the Concord had managed every crisis in the galaxy. They had rules. They had protocols. They had the negotiation collective, and in one day, humanity had ignored all of it. Velnosh finally stood. His old joints ached. His wings hung low. He felt every one of his 300 years. Open a channel to Earth, he said. We need answers. Admiral Chen appeared on the screen moments later. He sat in his command chair, calm and patient. Behind him, officers worked at their stations like nothing unusual had happened. High Arbiter, Chen said with a small nod. How can I help you? You can explain yourself. Velnosh's voice clicked with anger. You conducted a military operation in Concord space without authorization. You moved warships into a neutral zone without informing us. You ignored every protocol. With respect, Chen interrupted. We informed the Concord of our policy. The President made our position very clear. You chose to believe we were bluffing. We were not. But those ships, where did they come from? Our sensors detected nothing. I know. Chen's voice was calm. That was the point. The hall fell silent. Every diplomat understood what Chen was not saying. Humanity had ships the Concord couldn't see, soldiers who could move through darkness, weapons and tactics that no one knew about. For 82 years, humanity had been part of the Concord, watching and learning. And in all that time, they had hidden their true capabilities. How long? Velnosh asked quietly. How long have you had these capabilities? That information is classified. You have been lying to us. We have been protecting our people. Chen leaned forward. Let me be very clear, High Arbiter. Humanity has no aggressive intentions toward any Concord species. We have no plans for conquest or expansion. We want peace. We want trade. We want to be good members of this community. But we also have responsibilities to our citizens. And when those citizens are threatened, we will respond. With everything we have. And you kept this hidden. Yes. Because we knew that if you understood what we could do, you would be afraid. And afraid people make bad decisions. Chen paused. We didn't want to scare you. We wanted to work beside you. But when Kethvor took our people, we had no choice. A Lorathi diplomat stood. Unlike the others, she did not look angry. She looked thoughtful. Admiral Chen, she said, my people lost 2 diplomats today. They were killed before your operation could begin. I should be furious at you for not acting sooner. But I am not. Chen nodded slowly. I'm deeply sorry for your loss. If we could have. I know. I saw the timeline. Your teams were already in position when our people died. You were waiting for the perfect moment. If you had moved too early, more would have died. Perhaps everyone. She took a breath. I am not angry at you, Admiral. I am angry at us. At the Concord. At how we have done things for so long. The hall murmured in surprise. For thousands of years, we have paid ransoms, she continued. We have negotiated with terrorists. We have accepted reasonable losses. We told ourselves this was wisdom. This was practical. But what has it created? A galaxy where criminals grow rich. Where terror is profitable. Where innocent people are merchandise to be bought and sold. She turned to face the other diplomats. The humans showed us another way today. They said no. They refused to participate in our system of rewarding evil. And instead of watching their people die, they did something about it. Her blue face was hard with emotion. Perhaps we are the ones who should explain ourselves. The hall erupted in argument. Some diplomats agreed with her. Others called her naive. Some demanded sanctions against Earth. Others demanded to know how they could protect themselves from a species this dangerous. Through it all, Chen watched patiently. He had expected this. He had prepared for it. Admiral, Velnosh said finally, raising his voice above the chaos. The Vethkai separatists were a problem, yes, but they were a Vethkai problem. What gives humanity the right to act unilaterally? They took our citizens, Chen replied. They killed innocents from multiple species. They broadcast their murders across the galaxy and promised to keep killing. At that point, High Arbiter, waiting for permission wasn't an option. But the precedent was already set. For 10,000 years, your precedent has been to pay and pray. Our precedent is different. We don't let our people be murdered while committees debate. Chen stood. I understand this is difficult. Change always is. But I want to offer the Concord something. What? A partnership. Humanity has capabilities you don't. You have experience and wisdom we lack. Instead of being afraid of each other, let's work together. The next time terrorists strike anywhere in the galaxy, let us help. Not to conquer, not to control, but to protect. The hall was quiet. This was not what anyone had expected. You want to help other species? Velnosh asked. We want to build a galaxy where innocent people don't have to be afraid, where criminals and terrorists know that there is no safe place for them, where the response to murder is justice, not payment. Chen's voice softened. We're not here to take over. We're here to change things. For everyone. On the Vethkai homeworld, panic had taken hold. The Separatist movement had been embarrassing but tolerable for years. Now, humanity had destroyed them in 7 minutes. What would the humans do next? Would they blame the entire Vethkai species? Would they attack? The Vethkai government sent urgent messages to Earth. They apologized. They offered compensation. They promised to hunt down every remaining Separatist. They gave information about hidden bases and secret accounts. They did everything they could think of to show they were not the enemy. President Okonkwo responded with a simple message. We do not blame your people for the actions of criminals, but we expect you to deal with those criminals. If you do not, we will. It was enough. Within days, the Vethkai government had arrested over 200 Separatist members. Secret bases were destroyed. Funding sources were frozen. The movement that had terrorized the galaxy for decades simply ceased to exist. Other groups noticed. On a dozen worlds, terrorist organizations held emergency meetings. The humans had changed the game. The old rules no longer applied. Some groups decided to go quiet, to hide and wait. Others dissolved entirely, their members disappearing into normal life. A few brave ones decided to test humanity's resolve. They would learn, in time, that it was not wise. Back on Earth, Admiral Chen finally left his command center. He had been awake for over 40 hours. His body ached, his eyes burned, but he had one more duty to perform. The rescue ships had brought the hostages home. Medical teams were treating them at the Earth orbital station. Chen took a shuttle up and walked through the medical ward until he found them. Ambassador Elena Vasquez sat on a bed, holding Sophia close. The girl was asleep, exhausted by everything she had endured. Elena looked up when Chen entered. Admiral, she said quietly. Ambassador. Chen pulled up a chair and sat down. How is she? The doctors say she'll be fine physically. Mentally. Elena looked at her daughter's sleeping face. We'll see. She saw things no child should ever see. I'm sorry. I'm sorry we couldn't move faster. You moved fast enough. We're alive. Elena met his eyes. I heard what you did. What you had prepared. How long have those teams existed? Chen was quiet for a moment. Then he sighed. Since before you were born. Since before I was born. After the first time humans were taken hostage by alien criminals, the government made a decision. Never again. We would build something that could respond to any threat, anywhere, without warning. Something the galaxy would never see coming. And you kept it secret all this time. We hoped we'd never need it. But hope isn't a strategy. Chen looked at Sophia. She was brave. I saw the footage. When Kethvor asked if she had any last words, she warned him. Elena smiled sadly. I told her stories about our history, about people who stood up to evil. She remembered. She's human. Of course she did. They sat in silence for a while. Outside the window, Earth turned slowly, blue and green and beautiful. What happens now? Elena asked. Now. Now the galaxy adjusts. Some species will be angry. Some will be scared. Some will want our help. Chen stood. And we'll be ready for all of it. We always are. He walked to the door, then stopped and turned back. Ambassador, when you're ready, the president wants to talk to you. There's going to be a lot of diplomatic work ahead. The galaxy needs to understand that we're not monsters. We're just people who refuse to let monsters win. Elena nodded. I'll be ready. Chen smiled. I know you will. Rest now. You've earned it. He left. Elena held Sophia closer and closed her eyes. Outside, stars burned in the endless dark. The galaxy had changed today. Nothing would ever be quite the same. And that, Elena thought, was exactly the point. 1 year had passed since the Harmony's Reach incident. The galaxy had changed in ways no one expected. On the memorial station built where Harmony's Reach once floated, a ceremony was taking place. Representatives from every Concord species had gathered to remember those who died. 7 names were carved into black stone. 7 innocent people who would never go home. Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood before the memorial. She wore her formal diplomatic robes. Beside her stood Sophia, now 13 years old. The girl had grown taller in the past year. Her eyes still carried shadows, but they also carried strength. 1 year ago, Elena began. Evil came to this place. It took lives. It spread fear. It thought it could win by being cruel. She paused, looking at the names on the stone. It was wrong. The crowd listened in silence. This ceremony was being broadcast across the galaxy. Billions watched. We gather today to remember the fallen, but we also gather to celebrate the living. 841 people survived that day because someone decided to say no. No to ransom. No to fear. No to the idea that innocent lives are for sale. She looked out at the crowd. Human faces mixed with alien faces. Blue and green and gray and brown. So many different species, all standing together. 1 year ago, many of you thought humanity was foolish. You thought our pride would cost lives. You thought we didn't understand how the galaxy worked. She smiled slightly. You were right about one thing. We didn't understand. We refused to understand. Because some things should never be understood. Some things should only be fought. In the crowd, High Arbiter Velnosh listened. He had retired 3 months ago. His replacement was younger, more open to change. But Velnosh still came to important events. He still watched. He was still learning. Everything Elena said was true. He had thought humanity foolish. He had thought their refusal to negotiate was primitive and dangerous. He had been wrong. In the years since Harmony's reach, terrorism in the galaxy had dropped by 60%. 60% in 1 year. Not because of new laws or better security, but because criminals had learned a simple lesson. Some targets were not worth the risk. No human had been taken hostage since that day. Not one. Across a galaxy of 100 billion stars, criminals had decided that humans were simply too dangerous to touch. The cost was too high. The response was too certain. But it wasn't just humans who benefited. Elena continued speaking. When we refused to pay ransom, many species offered to pay for us. They wanted to save our people, even if we wouldn't save them ourselves. That kindness showed us something important. The galaxy isn't cruel. The galaxy's system was cruel. The people within it always had the capacity for better. She gestured to a group in the front row. They wore Lorathi blue and stood in formal positions. 3 months ago, the Lorathi Alliance signed a mutual defense pact with Earth. Not because they feared us, but because they wanted to build something new. A partnership based on protecting the innocent, not paying for them. Since the Lorathi Pact, 4 other species had requested similar arrangements. Humanity had accepted them all. Not as conquerors or leaders, but as partners. Equals working toward the same goal. And things were changing. Slowly, in small ways, but changing. On some worlds, new laws were being discussed. Laws that said governments would not pay ransoms. Laws that said terrorism would be met with force, not money. Not every world. Not yet. But some, more every month. A movement had started. It began with humans, but it was spreading. Young people on a dozen worlds were asking why their governments paid criminals. They were asking why evil was rewarded. They were asking questions that had not been asked for 10,000 years. Elena finished her speech and stepped back. Sophia squeezed her hand. You did good, Mom, Sophia whispered. We all did. After the ceremony, Elena met with Admiral Chen. He looked tired but satisfied. His hair was grayer than before. The past year had been busy. The president sends her regards, he said. She wanted to be here, but the summit on Corinth couldn't be moved. I understand. Elena smiled. So, what's the count now? How many groups have we dealt with? Since Harmony's reach, 14 terrorist organizations have been eliminated. Another 31 have dissolved on their own. Hostage situations across the galaxy are at a historic low. Chen shook his head. I never thought I'd see numbers like this. Not in my lifetime. And the cost? Chen's face grew serious. 12 of our operators killed in action. Good people. The best. He paused. We don't celebrate this, Ambassador. We do it because it needs to be done. Not because we enjoy it. I know. I just wanted to make sure we remember the price. We always do. They walked together through the station. Outside the windows, ships came and went. Human ships flew alongside Lorathi cruisers and Delani transports. A year ago, this mix would have been rare. Now it was common. I have news from Earth, Chen said. Your daughter's application to the academy was accepted. Early admission. Elena stopped walking. She told you before she told me? Chen smiled. She wanted it to be a surprise. But she asked my advice on her entrance essay. I thought you should know. Elena looked out the window at the stars. Her daughter, who had nearly been killed by terrorists, wanted to become a soldier, to protect others the way she had been protected. She's too young, Elena said softly. She won't start actual training until she's 18. Right now, it's just preliminary education. Chen stood beside her. She's going to be remarkable, Ambassador. I saw it in her eyes that day, when she warned Kethvor. She has fire. She has too much fire sometimes. Good. The galaxy needs more fire. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Elena asked the question that had been bothering her for months. What happens when someone tests us again? Really tests us? What if there's a threat we can't handle? Chen considered the question carefully. Then we'll adapt. We'll learn. We'll find a way. He looked at her. That's what humans do. We're not the strongest species in this galaxy. We're not the oldest. We're not the wisest. But we don't give up. We don't accept what we're told is inevitable. We fight. And eventually, we win. Far across the galaxy, in a region of space that even star maps called dangerous, a meeting was taking place. The Void Syndicate was the largest criminal organization in known space. They had existed for centuries. They smuggled weapons and slaves. They killed for money. They feared nothing and no one. Their leader sat in a dark room, surrounded by lieutenants from a dozen species. On the table before them were images and reports, all about humanity. So, the leader said, what do we know? A lieutenant spoke up. The humans have been quiet since Harmony's reach. No aggressive expansion. No attacks on non-hostile targets. They seem content to wait until someone strikes first. And then, they respond. Completely. Absolutely. We have reports of 14 organizations destroyed in the past year. No survivors. No negotiations. No mercy. The room was silent. What about their defenses? Their ships? Their soldiers? Unknown. Their full capabilities remain classified. But based on what we saw at Harmony's reach, the lieutenant hesitated. They're more dangerous than anyone thought. Perhaps more dangerous than any single species should be. The leader drummed his fingers on the table. He had ruled the Void Syndicate for 40 years. He had survived assassins and betrayals and wars. He had never been afraid of anything. But looking at the reports about humanity, he felt something cold in his chest. New orders, he said finally. Effective immediately. No operations involving human targets. No operations in human territory. No operations that could be traced back to us if humans are affected. Sir, that eliminates half our potential contracts. I don't care. Find other contracts. The leader stood. I have ruled this organization for 40 years by knowing which fights to pick. The humans are not a fight we can win. Not yet. Maybe not ever. He walked to the door and paused. Let others test them if they want. Let others learn the hard way. The syndicate will survive. We always do. But we survive by being smart. And the smart thing is to leave the humans alone. He left. His lieutenants looked at each other in the dark room. The galaxy had changed. The rules were different now. And everyone was still trying to figure out what that meant. On Earth, in a small house outside the city of New Tokyo, President Okonkwo sat with her grandchildren. It was a rare, quiet evening. No crises, no meetings, no decisions that would shape the fate of billions. Her grandson, a boy of 8, was playing with a toy spaceship. Her granddaughter, 12 years old, was reading about the Harmony's Reach incident on her tablet. Grandma, the girl said, why did you do it? Why did you refuse to pay when everyone else said you should? Okonkwo smiled and set down her tea. Do you know the story of the line in the sand? The girl shook her head. A long time ago, back on Earth, there was a small group of soldiers defending a fort. They were outnumbered. Help wasn't coming. Their leader drew a line in the dirt and said that anyone who crossed it was choosing to stay and fight, probably to die. Do you know what happened? Everyone crossed. Every single one. Because some things matter more than survival. Some principles are worth dying for. Okonkwo leaned forward. When I refused to pay that ransom, I was drawing a line. I was saying that humanity stands for something, that we will not reward evil, no matter the cost, that there are some things we will never accept, but people could have died. Yes, and if they had, it would have broken my heart, but the people who would have died were humans. They understood. They knew what we stand for. They knew that if they died for something real. Okonkwo took her granddaughter's hand. Every generation has to decide who they are, what they believe, what lines they won't cross. I made that choice for my generation. Someday, you'll make it for yours. The girl thought about this for a long moment. I want to be brave like that, she said finally. Okonkwo smiled. You already are. You just don't know it yet. Outside, the sun was setting over the ocean. Stars were appearing in the darkening sky. Somewhere out there, 100 billion stars burned in the endless night. Somewhere out there, a galaxy was slowly, carefully, learning a new way to be. And somewhere out there, anyone who thought about harming innocent people looked at those stars and remembered what had happened at Harmony's Reach. The humans were watching, the humans were waiting, and the humans never forgot.